Do you think there's an economic case at the moment for continuing with pay restraint in the public sector beyond, say, this year into extra years?
Yes, I'm afraid there is, until the economy shows signs of definitely recovering from the current very serious slowdown. I mean, you've got to work out this. Now we are a minority government, but one that's intending to go on, what your aims are. And I assume we're going to carry on for 2 or 3 years. And I think we've got to deliver successful government, which at the end means we show we're competent, we have a reasonable economy, we've avoided going into recession, we're getting near a reasonable Brexit deal, and we're achieving some reasonable growth. Now, if everybody's going to start giving into the lobby of the week, and this week it's public sector pay, because it's the...
Lobby of the week in terms of like lobby of the day, as opposed to lobby of the vulnerable.
It's suddenly the political bubble's got seized with this last 2 or 3 days, because it's the public sector trades unions conference season.
Well, you may say
and what you cannot do is give into that what would be disastrous at the moment, to be quite silly economic policy, to start putting money in to fuel a burst in pay in the public sector pursuing inflation.
But you're making out that the case for public sector pay rises is just kind of weakness and stupidity. No, actually, there are retention problems in the public sector, which mean trying to get decent workers, you have to pay them a little bit more. The public sector used to be paid more than the private sector. That's gone. You can't rely on that anymore.
Not quite gone, but in parts of the country, they're still the most secure and desirable jobs you have. The nurses are being used as nurses are so popular, so highly respected by me and other people, that you always put those on the front line if you're running a pay claim. And we have a problem with nurses. The Brexit's called a devaluation, which has made this country less attractive for foreign nurses to work in, and the Romanians have all gone back.
But whatever the cause, whatever the cause,
to do with the pay level.
No, but whatever the cause, basic economics tells you if you're short of people, you pay a bit more to get them, and that's what you do.
The reason you're not retaining nurses is pay, but I don't think how much you're going to give. I mean, the politics are very bad. If the government gives into this, it won't get any credit for it. Firstly, our opponents, the Labour Party, will say it's not enough. You've abandoned your cap. But we give more than that. And the newspapers and the political bubble will say another defeat for May and the Chancellor. They've all been defeated. They've given in. That's what happened to that very sensible decision on abortion for Northern Ireland women, which I'm sure Theresa May was extremely anxious to agree with, but it was portrayed as a defeat for her.
Right. So you think that politics says you have to stand firm because
you've got to explain
by responding to Labour's manifesto, which by all accounts was rather popular compared to yours, responding to that by trying to sort of get halfway or match certain of the things isn't going to work.
You have to explain why, if you're in government, you have to take tough, difficult decisions which are in the general public interest, including public servants, because you wish to keep a strong, growing, modern economy.
We could talk
and just throwing money about to make yourself more popular next week when it won't even succeed in doing that is a mistake.
Let me ask you this. When you were Chancellor, you got the deficit down. It wasn't starting from such a high base. And you took unpopular actions. You put up taxes and you cut spending. And you did them in about even measure. And that was a political choice. You could have weighed them up in different ways, but you thought, let's be a centrist government, we'll do a bit on spending and a bit on taxes, or quite a bit on both. George Osborne's austerity was very different. It was 80%, in fact now more than 80%, on spending. He didn't put up taxes. You could quite reasonably say, it's gone too far on the public service side, we need to spend more, and we'll put up taxes to pay for it.
But he took over from a very high-taxing government, so he had constraints. What you have to do, what Philip has to do, is address the reality of the economic situation of the moment. Behind all this, somebody used earlier the phrase grown-up politics. If you're in government, unlike these other people sailing around doing interviews and so on, you have to look at the reality. And what it's your duty to deliver is an economy which in 2 or 3 years' time is better than it was when you took over. The Labour Party howled at everything I did. When we reached the election, we were miles ahead of them in the opinion polls on the economy, and Tony Blair and Gordon Brown said they wouldn't change a jot of my spending and tax decisions.
What do you think Philip Hammond means by grown-up conversation? Does that mean the conversation isn't grown up at the moment?
What addresses the extremely serious economic problems we face when we've slowed down very severely.
But is it not grown up at the moment? Come on, make a cheap political point about
as far as the general political bubble, it's the politicians as much as the media, it's not grown up at all. The fact is Brexit's making us poorer. it has actually stimulated a devaluation and inflation, and living standards are dropping, uncertainty is stopping investment. We're the slowest growing economy. Now, this may be temporary.
It's interesting that the Brexiteers are the ones, the Brexiteers, Gove and Johnson, are the two who've been out in the last 24 hours suggesting, you know, the public sector pay needs to be eased.
I think, with great respect, I think your clips span what Michael said. I'm delighted.
Do you think so? You don't think Michael Gove
You cut out all the stuff where he talked about fiscal discipline, and you're not alone. Everybody else is doing that. I'm delighted to see cabinet ministers going out and being let out of the cupboard, being allowed to do what cabinet ministers should do, and go out and talk about politics and defend their policies, explain why they're doing things. I think Philip should do more of it. I think Theresa should, and go back to sensible debate. All this PR rubbish about the grid and going out and giving slogans. We're getting rid of all that.
So hang on. I want to be clear.
They're new at it. They need some practice. And they'll find they'll get spun to make mischief.
But basically, you're saying
Gove's comments are perfectly all right.
You're basically saying it's not a cabinet of ill discipline. Or at least we shouldn't worry. If it is, it's sort of authentic.
No, it's not as ill discipline as you're making it seem. And I think they will. I think they need to be reminded that they've all got to concentrate on the serious job in hand, because the whole cabinet will go down if they just respond to populist urges of the week in question and make a mess of the economy when people look back in 2 or 3 years' time.
Very interesting.
And you'll make a mess of the economy if you pour money into starting wage inflation. The bank will have to raise interest rates. You will cast serious doubt on our economic future.
You cast the public sector pay issue with populism, and which is a word bandied around a lot, including by me. You see it as all part of one and the same.
It's this week's media campaign.
Last one.
The nurses and the doctors settle for 1% without any particular demur 2 months ago. Suddenly, it's the great passionate cause of the day.
You'll be stirring them
shortly after they've settled.
Last one. You famously called Theresa May a bloody difficult woman.
Yeah.
She took that as a badge of honour and was quoting it. Do you still think she's a bloody difficult woman, or do you think she's a bit of a pushover?
She needs to be difficult. I hope.
Is she, or is she a pushover? She gave more to the DUP than she intended.
What I hope is she proves to be a bloody difficult woman. Say, look, we have a serious task of government.
Is she proving to be
one? Let us follow grown-up politics. We're getting stuck in that cliche. Let us understand we have an economic difficulty. We do not want to be left behind by the developed world. We have a lot of tough challenges. We're not suddenly throwing money about so we can imitate the Labour Party and say we're giving everybody a pay rise. You'll set off private sector pay rises, you'll set off a rise in interest rates, and you'll cause another blow to confidence, and you'll cause further slowdown in the economy.
Clarke, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.